He didn't want to believe it. At first, he blamed it on exhaustion, then on a midlife crisis. But each night, she fell asleep farther and farther away from him. And then came the movements, too confident. The touches, too unfamiliar. This wasn't her, or at least not the woman he once knew. One night, lying in the dark, he simply asked, "Are you seeing someone else?" The answer was worse than betrayal, a lie stretched thin like a bandage over an open wound. He hired a private investigator, and he didn't just get names, he got faces, locations, conversations. But the worst part wasn't even that. The worst part was learning that it all began with their daughters. The ones meant to be the continuation of their love had unknowingly become the spark that burned it down. Now everything's ashes, the house, the family, the trust. All that's left is rock bottom, cold, bitter, and brutally honest. But from there, he'll begin to rise. Alone. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. Sleep had slipped through my fingers again. At this point, I expected it, lying motionless on my back, eyes fixed on the faint stripes of light slicing through the blinds. My mind spun in endless loops, tangled in thoughts that refused to settle. I'd studied those dim slivers so many nights I could probably sketch them from memory. Pale beams stretched across the ceiling, occasionally disrupted by the lazy sweep of the ceiling fan's shadow overhead. The red digits of the clock shifted from 2:10 to 2:20, each change a fresh reminder that time was marching forward, indifferent to my static, spiraling state. The heaviness in my stomach had become a regular visitor, a dull, gnawing dread curled deep inside me. Beside me, Alexandra was fast asleep, her body arranged in the usual careless sprawl. One leg kicked free from the blanket, an arm draped across a pillow, her hair fanned out messily over her cheek. I used to find that familiar sight soothing. Lately, it only seemed to emphasize the quiet gap growing between us. There was something almost intentional about the way she slept now, like she was making a point of keeping distance between us. The more I noticed it, the more it burned. We'd shared 25 years together, yet something had shifted recently. A change so subtle at first, but it had bloomed into something undeniable, something that now fueled my sleepless nights with a creeping unease. Alexandra wasn't just changing, she had already changed. And not in the slow, natural ways people evolve. This was abrupt, jarring, especially in the bedroom, where once we'd settled into a rhythm, familiar, maybe predictable, now everything felt unrecognizable. She had become suddenly assertive, even aggressive. There were new moves, new sounds, new intensity. Things she used to dismiss outright, laugh off, or cringe at had become part of our routine. Her moans, the way she touched me, it all felt overly polished, like something scripted, a performance. At first, I tried to go along with it. Part of me welcomed the novelty. But the other part, the part that knew her inside and out, couldn't shake the discomfort. It was too much, too fast. Something felt rehearsed. I kept asking myself, where had this all come from? Why now, after decades of the same tune? My gut twisted around one ugly, unavoidable answer. She must have learned this from someone else. It felt paranoid, irrational, but the thought lodged itself deep and refused to leave. I remembered what a friend had said once, half drunk at a party, laughing, but with just enough seriousness. If your wife suddenly flips the switch in bed, check her phone. I'd laughed it off at the time, but the idea had stayed with me like a splinter. Then other things started popping up. New outfits I hadn't seen before, a fresh scent trailing behind her, even on lazy days when she just ran errands. Her phone, once left lying around, now never left her hand. She changed the passcode and kept it locked. All of it came together like storm clouds gathering overhead, impossible to ignore. I caught myself constantly scanning her expression, searching for some flicker of guilt. And at night, I couldn't stop replaying the latest version of her. The way she touched me, the way she'd glance away when she thought I wasn't paying attention. My throat was dry. My heart beat loud in my ears. I swallowed hard and spoke into the darkness. "Alexandra?" She shifted slightly, a faint jerk of the shoulder, but her breathing didn't change. Maybe she really was asleep, or maybe she was pretending. Either way, the silence crackled between us, lighting something in me. I rolled to my side, trying to settle the storm inside me, but it only grew louder. This time, I raised my voice. "Alexandra, I know you're awake." She moved just enough to groan, irritated, tired. That was all the confirmation I needed. So she was awake, and choosing not to speak. My chest tightened at the rejection. The way she shut me out made my skin crawl. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "What's going on with you? Why have you changed so much in bed?" I kept my voice steady, but the weight behind it was unmistakable. "We've been together 25 years, and now suddenly you're someone else. Is this something you picked up from a website? Or did someone teach you?" She stayed facing away, but I could feel the tension run through her. "It's the middle of the night," she said, voice low. "Do we really have to do this now?" "Yes. Now is exactly when we have to. I'm losing sleep over this. You're shutting me out, and I'm unraveling. Just tell me the truth. Are you with someone else?" That pushed her. She rolled onto her back, hair spilling across the pillow, her tone sharp. "You're being ridiculous. Why does it have to be cheating? What if I just wanted to explore, try new things?" My hands were shaking. "Because you've never wanted this stuff. You used to shut it down immediately, and now you're acting like an expert. Don't treat me like a fool. I know you." She let out a sound somewhere between a growl and a sigh, throwing her arm over her forehead. "Jesus, Caleb, just give it a rest. I'm tired." Rage surged through me. "Oh, sure, you're too tired to talk, but not too tired to put on your new show every night." Her hand slapped the mattress. "Shut up," she spat. "I can't do this with you right now." I stared at her through the dark, blood rushing in my ears. "Of course, just run away. Pretend it's all in my head." She threw the blanket off her, snatched a pillow, and marched across the room. The dim hallway light caught the clenched line of her jaw, the cold blaze in her eyes. "I'm sleeping in the guest room," she snapped. "Enjoy your lonely spiral." I couldn't help myself. "Don't forget your phone," I said, voice ice. "Wouldn't want you to miss a message from your side guy." She froze, her body locking into place. "You'll be sorry for this," she whispered, her voice shaking, heavy with unshed tears. "You're such a—" I cut her off before she could finish. My response came fast, razor sharp. "I hired someone to track you." Her reaction was immediate, a sharp intake of breath. She didn't say another word. Spinning on her heel, she bolted for the door, leaving it swinging behind her. A few seconds later, a door slammed upstairs, the guest room, and faint, muffled sobs followed. The sound hit me somewhere deep, but the fire in my chest kept me rooted. I lay in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, fists clenched, caught in a storm of guilt and rage. When the first light crept in, I slipped out before the house stirred, desperate to dodge another emotional confrontation. My limbs felt like lead, my mind buzzing with unrest. I forced myself into a punishing workout, sprinting until my lungs burned, lifting weights until my muscles screamed. The pain gave me something tangible to hold on to, a counter to the emotional spiral. After the shower, I paused in front of the locker room mirror. Gray was beginning to take over the brown in my hair. Crow's feet carved lines beside my eyes. My stomach had a softness that wouldn't go away. 50, almost 51, and I felt every bit of it. But what stared back at me in the glass wasn't just age. It was fear. The fear of a man who was finally seeing the truth about the woman he married. I had to stop at the house to grab a few documents for work. Bracing myself, I prayed Alexandra had already left. When I pulled into the driveway and saw her car was gone, a rush of relief swept through me. Inside, I was already shifting focus to the day ahead when I heard voices drifting faintly from upstairs, familiar ones. My daughters. Jenna was 21, Kelsey 20, both away at college, and neither one typically came by without letting me know. Had Alexandra called them? I crept toward the staircase, listening. Their conversation was low but tense. "Mom's totally lost it," Kelsey said. "She's using that app, Pure, to meet random guys. Told me hiding it from Dad was way easier than she expected." My stomach dropped. I inched closer, pressing myself to the wall. Jenna's voice followed, full of remorse. "We kinda pushed her toward it, remember? The open marriage idea? We thought it might help, shake things up. I never thought she'd actually start hooking up with strangers." Open marriage. The phrase hit me like a blow to the chest. This wasn't just Alexandra going rogue. It had roots in something my daughters had suggested. Kelsey let out a strangled sound. "Now she's sneaking off to meet guys, and if Dad finds out we planted the idea, he'll never forgive us." Something broke inside me. Whether they meant to or not, they'd given her permission to betray me. I bit down on the anger, holding still, listening. Jenna sighed heavily. "We were only trying to help fix things. Mom kept saying she was bored, said Dad didn't hear her. We thought maybe if they tried what some couples do, the open thing, it could work. We figured she'd talk to him first." "She didn't," Kelsey said, voice tight with emotion. "She just dove in. That app's like a drug to her now. This whole thing's falling apart." I couldn't take any more. Heart racing, I stepped back from the stairs and called out, my voice echoing through the house. "Jenna, Kelsey, come down here, now." Silence. Then the hurried sounds of feet on the stairs. They appeared at the railing, their expressions stricken. Jenna looked like she'd seen a ghost. Kelsey's eyes were rimmed with tears. They made their way down slowly, like approaching a sentence. I folded my arms, my jaw tight. "Care to explain what I just overheard?" Jenna opened her mouth, but Kelsey jumped in first, clearly panicking. "Dad, it's not what you think." I raised a hand. "Stop. Don't spin this. I heard enough. You told your mother to try an open marriage. You encouraged her to use some hookup app, Pure, right?" They exchanged a look, both visibly shaken. Jenna finally answered, barely audible. "We didn't tell her to cheat, not without telling you." "We only suggested it," Kelsey added quickly. "She was unhappy, said you never wanted to try new things. We thought, if you both agreed, it could help. We didn't know she'd do it behind your back." My heart hammered in my chest. "Do you even hear yourselves? You're my daughters, and you basically gave your mom the green light to sleep with other men." "No," Kelsey cried, tears now falling. "We only brought it up. She said she'd talk to you. We didn't think she'd go behind your back like this." I stared at them both, a storm tearing through me. Betrayal, heartbreak, disbelief. "And now you're seeing the result," I said, voice cracking. "She's out there meeting strangers, and it started with your suggestion." Everything unraveled because of my daughters, unintentionally, of course, but they were the ones who set everything in motion. It's still difficult for me to process. They came to me together, eyes full of sorrow, reaching out as if they could take it all back. "We didn't mean for it to go this far," Jenna whispered. "We love you, Dad." "This was never what we hoped would happen," Kelsey added. I couldn't bring myself to look at them. My eyes stayed fixed on the floor, the railing, the walls, anywhere but their faces. Fury simmered just beneath the surface, ready to boil over. "Out," I said, my jaw clenched tight. "I can't even look at you right now." "Please, Dad," Kelsey choked out, her voice cracking under the weight of guilt. I said leave, I shouted, my voice echoing down the hall like a gunshot. I need space. Go back to school. Live your lives. Just not here. Not now. They didn't fight me. With tear-streaked cheeks and trembling hands, they gathered their bags and slipped out the door without another word. The silence they left behind rang louder than any argument, and deep inside, something fractured, something I don't think will ever fully heal. My own daughters. How could they have played a role in this mess, even without meaning to? Later that evening, I met with Jonah, the private investigator I'd hired a few weeks back. We sat across from each other in a run-down diner on the edge of town. He was in his 60s, thin and grizzled, with a face lined by decades of harsh truths. As I slid into the booth, he gave me a look that was equal parts concern and regret. "Caleb," he said quietly, "I've uncovered a lot more since we last spoke." He pushed a thick folder toward me. Inside were photos, call logs, and printed-out messages. My stomach clenched as I opened it. The first image was of Alexandra stepping out of a car in a tight dress I didn't recognize. The next one showed her arm in arm with a bald man outside a cheap highway motel. The timestamps were recent, just days old. Every instinct screamed at me to close the folder, to walk away, but I didn't. Jonah pointed to one of the images. "That's Damien," he said. "She's seen him multiple times. They met on a site called Pure, first at a coffee shop, then this motel, and once at his place." My head pounded. Alexandra. In some stranger's apartment? How long had she stayed? What happened between them? He laid out more photos. "This guy's Logan, from Massachusetts. They picked a halfway point, had dinner, and stayed a few hours at a B&B. I stayed until they went inside," he added. "They left separately, about 4 hours later. It felt like death by 1,000 cuts, slow, agonizing, inescapable. But there was more." He turned to screenshots of text conversations. "This one's from someone who calls himself Nacho Man. Real name's Brandon. They only met once, but their messages, pretty explicit." I forced myself to read them. "Brandon, you into it rough? Got toys. Could bring a friend if you're game. Alexandra, under the handle. Alex123. Not sure yet, but YOLO, right? Maybe I'll feel adventurous." I felt sick. Alexandra, a woman who once blushed at an ambiguous joke, is now casually flirting with strangers about intimacy and experimentation. Seeing the devastation written all over my face, Jonah gently closed the folder. "I'm sorry you had to see this," he said, "but I thought you should know." My throat was dry. I barely got the words out. "Thanks, Jonah. Send me the final bill." He nodded silently as I pushed myself out of the booth like it was burning me. With the folder clutched under one arm, I staggered back to my car, the world around me spinning like it had come unhinged. That night, I laid everything out on the dining room table. Photos, screenshots, notes. It was a mosaic of betrayal, every piece cutting deeper than the last. When Alexandra came home, her footsteps faltered at the doorway. Maybe she could already feel the storm inside the house. Her eyes landed on the table, and her face went ghostly pale. What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. I gestured to the mess. "Just a detailed record of your extracurriculars. Names, dates, places. Quite the itinerary. Damien, Logan, Brandon, also known as Taco Titan. Any of this sounding familiar?" She stared at the evidence, momentarily speechless. Then finally, "This is a complete violation of my privacy." I let out a cold, bitter laugh. No humor in it at all. "Oh, I'm the problem now? Me finding out is worse than you cheating?" Her eyes filled with tears, and her shoulders tensed. "I tried to talk to you, Caleb. I said I needed more from this marriage. I hinted. I tried to open up." "Oh, so this is my fault now?" I shouted, shoving one of the photos toward her. "This is what you meant by more? This is how you fix things? You know the girls told me it was their idea to suggest an open marriage, And that you said you'd talk to me first? Her face tightened. A flicker of guilt passed through her, but she stood her ground. I knew you'd shut it down. You're too rigid. You'd never go for it. But I wasn't about to let her finish. Instead of facing me like an adult, you took that suggestion and dove headfirst into some hookup app. Then, for weeks, you kept it from me, lied straight to my face. Alexandra's eyes narrowed, glimmering with defiance. What choice did I have? You would have shut me down like always. I just stood there, stunned. So what? You were restless? Tired of the same routine playing out day after day? My voice broke, trembling with rage. So the answer was to crawl into bed with strangers? Without telling me? You let people see sides of you that I never even knew existed. That's the part I can't get over. You unlocked something new in yourself, and I wasn't even worth a conversation. Tears began to stream down her face as she bit hard on her lip. I was terrified. I thought you'd mock me, or worse, turn away. I felt like I was suffocating. Something inside me cracked. There were always other paths, I snapped. You could have asked for space, filed for separation, even divorce, but instead you chose to destroy everything quietly, from within. Her hand hit the table, fingers trembling. I didn't feel like I mattered. You never really listened. You shut me out. I couldn't breathe. I needed to feel human again. I clenched my jaw. You didn't rediscover yourself, Alexandra. You demolished us. With her hands shaking, she grabbed her purse, tears cutting lines down her cheeks, and rushed upstairs without another word. I dropped into a chair, the silence pressing down like a weight. My eyes landed on the photos above the fireplace, snapshots of our life, now buried in emotional wreckage. It felt like a bomb had gone off, and I was left in the rubble. A few days later, I returned to the house to gather paperwork for the lawyer. Thankfully, Alexandra wasn't there. The tension between us had become radioactive. As I sorted through documents, I heard the front door creak open. "Dad," one of my daughters called out. "Are you here?" I froze, the sting of betrayal still raw. They stepped cautiously into the room, pale and hesitant. Kelsey was the first to speak, her voice brittle. "We're so sorry, Dad." "We haven't been sleeping," Jenna added, barely above a whisper. None of this was what we intended. The whole open marriage idea, it was only meant as a suggestion, something to help. "We never thought she'd go through with it without you," Kelsey murmured. I turned to face them, my voice flat and icy. "You think that makes this easier? I'm livid. At your mother, for what she did, and at both of you, for putting the idea in her head." Their faces crumpled. Kelsey's eyes filled with tears. "We only heard Mom's side. She said you were closed off, that she couldn't reach you, and we believed her." "She told us you wouldn't listen," Jenna said softly. A bitter laugh escaped me. "So your solution was, what? That she just sleep with other people? That's what you call helping?" Jenna wiped at her cheeks. "We never told her to cheat. We just said, if both of you agreed, maybe it could fix things. One of our friends' parents did it, and it worked for them." A storm churned in my chest. Grief, betrayal, rage. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said quietly. "I still love you both. That hasn't changed. But this? This is a wound that won't just heal. You didn't just watch. You justified it." They both broke down, sobbing. Every instinct in me screamed to go to them, to comfort them. But I didn't move. After a long silence, I found the words. "I need time. Go back to school. Stay out of this. Let me handle what's left." Kelsey hiccuped between tears. "But Dad?" "No," I cut in, firm. "Right now, all I see when I look at you is where this began. I need space." They lingered in the doorway, hearts breaking, but I turned my back. Moments later, I heard the door close behind them. The quiet that followed was unbearable. I collapsed onto the couch, hands covering my face, wishing desperately for a do-over. That night, I packed a suitcase and drove to my parents' home, a modest little place on the edge of town. They were in their 70s, kind, dependable, but not the type to talk about emotions over coffee. Still, when I rang the doorbell with a bag in hand, they knew something was wrong. "Caleb?" my mom said, her eyes wide with concern. "What's going on?" "My marriage is falling apart," I said hoarsely, barely able to speak. They gently coaxed the story out of me, piece by painful piece. I didn't give them everything. I left out the open marriage conversation, the part the girls played, but I did tell them the truth. Alexandra had been unfaithful. More than once. And I was thinking about divorce. Their reactions were subdued, but clear. My dad kept muttering "unbelievable" under his breath, while my mother stared at me like I'd aged 10 years overnight. That night, lying on the pull-out couch, I stared at the ceiling. I was safe, but still completely shattered. The next morning, I decided to head back to the house and collect more of my things. I couldn't share that space with Alexandra any longer. But as I stepped through the front door, there she was, pacing the living room, her phone gripped in a white-knuckled hand. She looked up the second she saw me. "You told them?" she snapped, her voice sharp as glass. "Your parents? They've been calling me non-stop, saying I'm disgusting, that I've disgraced the family." I dropped my keys on the counter with a loud clatter. "Yeah, I told them." They asked me why I walked away. I told them the truth. Her expression twisted in rage. "You had no right to turn them against me. This should have stayed between us." I didn't flinch. "Kinda hard to keep something secret when you're booking shady motels on the side," I snapped. "You humiliated me. I couldn't care less about your reputation." Her hand clenched around the phone, knuckles draining of color. "Is this what you wanted? Watching everyone point fingers at me? Does that make you feel better?" I blew out a harsh breath. "Cut the victim act. You bragged about it, remember? You told the girls you were done with me, even told them about hooking up with random guys from some stupid app." She moved in closer, eyes glistening, voice cracking. "You don't know what it was like, being married to you. I couldn't breathe. You never listened, never asked what I needed. Everything had to be your way. I felt trapped. And your solution was screwing around with strangers?" My words came out icy, sharp enough to wound. "If things were that awful," I said through clenched teeth, "you should have ended it before betraying me." Tears started to fall, and she shook her head slowly. "I messed up, okay? But don't pretend you were perfect." "I've faced myself," I fired back. "And I see someone who got lied to, repeatedly. I'm done, Alexandra. I'm filing for divorce." For a second, something in her face softened, like she might beg me to reconsider, but the tenderness vanished in a blink. She sneered. "Fantastic. Good luck finding someone who'll put up with your rigid, boring routines. Maybe your next wife won't need a personal trainer to show her how to have fun behind your back." The insult hit hard. Fury surged through me, and for a moment I nearly lost control. Instead, I brushed past her, grabbed a stack of papers from the table, and headed for the exit. She beat me there, flinging the door open with dramatic force and glaring as if to push me out with her stare. The door slammed behind me, and in its echo, a strange mixture of rage and liberation settled in my chest, like something inside had snapped for good. Savannah, one of my closest friends, and also my boss, owned a quiet little cabin by the lake about 30 minutes outside town. When I told her what happened, she didn't hesitate. She offered it to me without question. I arrived with 2 suitcases, still reeling from the chaos. The place was modest and had a slightly outdated charm. Creaky wooden floors, a snug layout, tiny kitchen, 1 bedroom, a simple bathroom, and a small but warm living room. A big window overlooked the still lake, framed by tall pine trees. As I stood there, watching the ripples on the water, a fragile sense of calm flickered through the emotional wreckage. I barely slept that first night, but at least the war zone was behind me. I paced the cabin, phone in hand, ignoring Alexandra's repeated calls. My daughters kept messaging too, sometimes apologizing, sometimes begging. My replies were short. I'm okay. I just need time. In the days that followed, I tried to force a routine. Zoom calls, email chains, work check-ins. When the walls started closing in, I'd walk the lakeshore or rent a kayak, letting the movement pull me away from the thoughts eating me alive. But the mental images came anyway. Alexandra and the things I could never unsee. The texts, the hashtags, YOLO, live your life. Some foot fetish guy raving about her arches. The playful messages exchanged at that B&B, each one cut deeper than the last. Then, about a week later, I heard gravel crunching in the driveway. A soft knock followed. When I opened the door, Jenna and Kelsey were there, awkward and unsure, holding a coffee and a paper bag. I stared at them, not sure I had it in me to talk. They must have seen it in my face, because Kelsey spoke up first. Sorry to just show up like this, Dad. We really need to talk. Jenna held out the coffee. It's your favorite. Mocha latte. I took it, cautiously, and stepped back to let them in. We hovered near the small table, too close, too tense. I cleared my throat. I said I needed time. Kelsey placed the bag down, her hands fidgeting. We know, but sitting around doing nothing felt wrong. You're our dad. We can see how much this hurt you. Jenna chimed in. We thought maybe we could help somehow. Anything, really. The anger hadn't disappeared, but it had worn itself down into exhaustion. I gestured for them to sit. I don't even know where to begin, I said, voice low. You're my daughters, but you supported her choices without me. How do I move forward from that? Jenna's eyes welled up. We were clueless. We honestly thought we were helping. At school, everyone talks about open relationships like it's normal. It didn't seem so radical. Kelsey nodded. We thought if both of you agreed, maybe it would work. But she just went ahead without you. I let out a slow breath. Now you understand how badly that went? Their eyes dropped to the floor, shame written across their faces. Kelsey stepped forward cautiously. Dad, we care about you so much. We care about Mom too. But we understand she messed up. We never meant for you to think we were taking her side. You might not have intended it, I murmured, but that's exactly how it came across. The memory still stung. The moment they brought up that absurd dating app. That app, Pure, was just a cover for anonymous hookups, a discreet tool for quick, no-strings encounters. Jenna lowered her eyes to the table, guilt written all over her. We know, she said softly. She told us later how easy and private it was, but realizing she actually used the app we mentioned? It's sickening. My fury dimmed, just enough for the sorrow to begin slipping in. I cleared my throat, struggling to stay steady. Look, I'm not saying I'm cutting you out of my life forever, but I'm hurting, and I can't act like none of this happened. Tears spilled quietly down both of their cheeks. Watching it broke something in me. Gently, I reached across the table. They held my hands tightly, and I had to blink back my own tears. I felt something shift, a piece of my anger loosening, making room for a deeper, more painful regret. Regret over how broken things had become. Jenna's voice cracked as she spoke through her crying. Take whatever time you need, Dad. We'll be here. Kelsey wiped her face, her voice thick with emotion. We just want you to know we love you. No matter what happens, we'll be here when you're ready. I nodded, unable to find my voice. They squeezed my hands again, then rose to leave. After sharing tentative, tearful hugs, they walked out, leaving me behind in a fog of sorrow and uncertainty. I sank onto the couch, finally letting myself cry. As betrayed and bitter as I felt, the loneliness hit just as hard. I missed them, deeply. The days after that blurred together, heavy and slow, like trudging through emotional quicksand. I still went to the house now and then, mostly to sort through mail, grab paperwork, or meet with realtors to discuss selling. Alexandra was hardly ever there when I stopped by, something I was quietly grateful for. When we did cross paths, the tension was immediate. Once I pulled into the driveway just as she was backing out. Short skirt, cold stare. She didn't say a word, just threw me a dismissive look and drove off. I couldn't help wondering who was waiting for her this time. Word was starting to get around. Friends started reaching out. Some genuinely wanted to check in. Others just seemed to crave gossip. Clarissa, someone we'd known for years, said Alexandra had been bragging about hooking up with a guy who liked to be treated like a king. Another friend mentioned spotting her at a bar, giggling a little too intimately with a heavily inked stranger. It turned my stomach. But it also made something click. She wasn't hiding anymore. Maybe this had always been her true self. I tried now and then to think about the good years, our wedding, the early days, the birth of our daughters. But even those memories felt tainted now, overshadowed by everything she'd become. Her social media didn't help either. Post after post, flashy outfits, club scenes, hashtags about freedom, grinning selfies with men draped over her. Every photo felt like a fresh wound. Eventually, I sat down with a divorce attorney named Naomi, someone who used to work with Savannah. She had a reputation for handling tough cases. I didn't come empty-handed, printed reports from the PI, financial records, screenshots. She scanned through them, her expression turning grim. "This state recognizes fault," she said. "Cheating matters here. It could influence alimony, asset division, but if we go in aggressively, it might get ugly." I sighed. I don't need revenge. I just don't want her walking off with everything I built. She's the one who broke the trust. She's the one who got on that app. Naomi tapped her pen, thinking. We can take a firm stance, build a strong case. But if her lawyer claims you were emotionally distant or paints you as controlling, it could get messy. You'll have to decide how far you're willing to take this. I rubbed my forehead, torn. I'm drained. I just want what's fair. Let me keep my retirement. She can take her share of the house. Naomi gave a small nod. I'll get things moving. A few weeks later, we had one final, awkward encounter. I'd come by to meet the realtor and finalize the listing. Alexandra was already inside, leaning against the counter, glued to her phone. She barely looked up as the agent walked around, making notes and snapping pictures. When the realtor stepped out back, Alexandra straightened, folding her arms. We need to settle the house stuff, she said coolly. I'm not cleaning. Hire someone if you want it ready. I gave a dry chuckle. Aren't you a realtor? Or did that slip your mind? You really can't manage this one task? She rolled her eyes. I sell houses. I don't scrub them. I've done more than enough. My temper flared. Yeah, you've been busy, lining up dates with guys from that damn app. Her face darkened, and she moved a step closer. Let it go. This is my life now. I'm not hiding anymore. I let out a sharp breath, voice low with anger. I'm done. You never hid your pride. It was on full display. Everyone had noticed the changes, the manicured nails, the offhand YOLO thrown into conversations, and every little indulgence you made sure people saw. Enjoy the moment while it lasts. Her face clouded over. You're always so ready to criticize, she shot back. At least I'm not walking around acting like a victim, fishing for pity from everyone we know. My voice was even, the kind of quiet that warned of something deeper. Don't flatter yourself. People witnessed it all. They saw you walk away from me. Let them believe what they want, she replied sharply. The tension between us was suffocating, thick as humidity before a storm. We stood close, but the emotional distance burned between us like pavement in high summer. That's when the realtor reappeared, her professional smile barely masking the fact that she'd caught a fragment of the exchange. Without a word, we separated as she started listing pricing details. The room felt like it had lost all its oxygen. Once she finally left, I grabbed my keys and walked out without turning back. Alexandra didn't make any move to follow. The morning our divorce was finalized was gray and bitter with chill. Alexandra and I sat beside one another, saying nothing, as the lawyers ran through the formalities. The judge hardly looked up as he asked a few obligatory questions, then brought his gavel down, marking the legal end to 25 years of marriage. Just like that, a life we'd built together was condensed into signatures and legal jargon. Outside, we each turned away, walking off without even a nod of acknowledgement. I watched her drive off, her face a blank mask through the windshield, eyes straight ahead. A storm of emotions twisted in my chest, relief laced with sorrow, and something sharper, harder to name. My thoughts drifted to our wedding day, stepping hand in hand from a courthouse filled with possibility. And now, this was the final scene. Muted, cold, irreversible. I shut out any curiosity about what she might do now, probably lining up more dates through whatever app she'd been glued to. More evenings out, more laughter echoing off bar walls, more distraction. Word had it she'd sold her share of the house and moved into a sleek downtown condo, walking distance from the nightlife she now seemed to crave. That was her version of freedom. She could keep it. I was done chasing illusions. With the divorce behind me, I stayed at the cottage for a little while longer. A for sale sign eventually appeared on the lawn of the place we once called home. Buyers filtered through. Now and then, my daughters would check in, asking how I was managing. There was still pain when I thought about their part in it all, but the sting had faded over time. They hadn't meant harm. They were just lost in their own confusion and immaturity. I could see they were carrying their own regrets, still trying to untangle their choices. They had tried to fix things, just in the most chaotic, clumsy way possible. And somehow, I understood. They were grieving too, in their own quiet, complicated way. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.